The official language of Algeria is Modern Standard Arabic, as specified in its constitution since 1963. In addition to this, Berber has been recognized as a national language by constitutional amendment since May 8, 2002. Algerian Arabic and Berber are the native languages of over 99% of Algerians, with Algerian Arabic spoken by about 72% and Berber by 27.4%. French, though it has no official status, is widely used in government, culture, media and education, due to Algeria's colonial history and can be regarded as being a de facto co-official language of Algeria. Kabyle, the most spoken Berber language in the country, is taught and partially co-official in parts of Kabylie. Malika Rebai Maamri, author of The Syndrome of the French Language in Algeria, said the language spoken at home and in the street remains a mixture of Algerian dialect and French words. Due to the number of languages and complexity involving those languages, Maamri argued that, oday the linguistic situation in Algeria is dominated by multiple discourses and positions. Currently spoken languages, Arabic. Arabic is the language of 73% of Algeria's population. In addition to this, non-native speakers learn Arabic at school, and as such the majority of the population understands Standard Arabic or the Algerian Arabic dialect. Algerian Arabic is spoken by 85% of the total population and 83% of Arab speakers. The 1963 Constitution of Algeria made Arabic the official language, and this was retained in the 1976 Constitution. The 1976 Constitution states in Article 3 Arabic is the national and official language. Both constitutions do not mention Berber and French. The Permanent Committee on Geographical Names for British official use stated Arabic was chosen at the outset as the language which was to represent Algeria unregistered trademark S identity and religion, and official attitudes towards both Berber and French have been largely negative. The PCGN stated that French, not Arabic, is the actual lingua franca of Algeria. Arabic is not commonly used in the Kabylie region. In Algeria, as elsewhere, spoken Arabic differs very substantially from written Arabic. Algerian Arabic has a much simplified vowel system, a substantially changed vocabulary and has dropped the case endings of the written language. Within Algerian Arabic itself, there are significant local variations. Jijil Arabic, in particular, is noteworthy for its pronunciation of qaf as kaf and its profusion of Berber loanwords, and the dialects of some ports show influence from Andalusi Arabic brought by refugees from Al-Andalus. Algerian Arabic is part of the Maghrebi Arabic dialect continuum, and fades into Moroccan Arabic and Tunisian Arabic along the respective borders. In the Sahara, more conservative Bedouin dialects, grouped under the name Saharan Arabic, are spoken. In addition, the many Sahrawi refugees at Tindouf speak Hassaniya Arabic. Most Jews of Algeria once spoke dialects of Arabic specific to their community, collectively termed Judeo-Arabic. However, most came to speak French in the colonial period even before emigrating to France and Israel after independence. After Algeria became independent in 1962, it tried to improve fluency by importing Arabic teachers from Egypt and Syria. Martin Redcone of the Toronto Star said that many of the instructors were unqualified. In 1963, of the 1,300,000 literate people in Algeria, an estimate of 300,000 read literary Arabic. Mohammed Ben Rabah, author of Language Maintenance and Spread, French in Algeria, said that during that year, linguistic competence in Standard Arabic was relatively low. Malika Rebai Maamri, author of The Syndrome of the French Language in Algeria, said that as of 2009, Classical Arabic is still not mastered even at higher educational levels, and that dialectical Arabic cannot express things in writing. As of 2012, remaining generations educated under the French colonial system are unable to read or write Arabic. Berber. Berber languages are spoken in many parts of Algeria, but mainly in Kabylie, in the Orais, and in the Sahara. Until the Phoenicians' arrival, Berber was spoken throughout Algeria, as later attested by early Tifinagh inscriptions. Despite the growth of Punic, Latin, and later Arabic, Berber remained the main language of Algeria until well after the French invasion in 1830. Arabic remains Algeria's only official language, although Berber has recently been recognized as a national language. The 1963 Constitution and the 1976 Constitution do not mention Berber and French. The Permanent Committee on Geographical Names for British official use stated official attitudes towards both Berber and French have been largely negative, and the Algerian authorities have even at times rejected use of the very word oe Berber either on the secular grounds that the term undermines national unity, or on the religious grounds that it is a term hostile to Islam. Berber and French are the two languages commonly used in the Kabylie region. The Berber language's dialects spoken in Algeria include, in the north, Kabyle, about 5 million speakers mostly in Kabylie and surrounded regions, due to Kabyle migration outside of the Kabyle region in Algeria and Europe, some estimates are as high as 8 million. Choya in the Ora-S, maybe 2 million speakers. Chinua, in the Daraa region, particularly of Jebel Chinua in Algeria, just west of Algiers near Tipaza province and Churchill and the Chlef, estimated 56,300 speakers. Two main dialects, Beni Menissa, west and south of Mount Chinua area, in Mount Chinua area, 55,250 speakers. The Tamazight of Blida, traditionally spoken in the Wilo of Blida. The Matmata dialect, spoken in some villages of the Awa-Senes region. In the extreme northwest, Beni Snas and Beni Said, dialects of Berber spoken in various villages of the Wilo of Tlemcen. In the Sahara, Mozabite in the Mtsab, language of Tawat and Gorera, language of Tugt and Temasin, Tamahak, among the Tuareg of the Hogar, French. The CIA World Factbook states that French is a lingua franca of Algeria. The Permanent Committee on Geographical Names for British official use states in reality, French is the lingua franca of Algeria, and that despite government efforts to remove French, it never stopped being the lingua franca. Algeria is the second largest francophone country in the world in terms of speakers. In 2008, 11.2 million Algerians could read and write in French. The 1963 and 1976 constitutions do not mention Berber and French. The PCGN stated official attitudes towards both Berber and French have been largely negative. French and Berber are the two languages commonly used in the Kabylie region. French is a part of the standard school curriculum, and is widely understood. 18 million Algerians can write and read French, which is 50% of the population, and the figure is higher if those who can only speak and understand it are included. Ethnologue estimates indicate that 111,000 people in Algeria speak it as their native language, mostly Pied-Noirs who stayed behind and people raised in French-speaking households. Some two-thirds of Algerians have a fairly broad grasp of French, and half speak it as a second language. French is widely used in media and commerce. French is widely used and spoken in everyday life in Algeria's larger cities, in diglossic combination with Algerian Arabic. Malika Rebai Maamri, author of The Syndrome of the French Language in Algeria, said French continues to be the dominant language in business and professional circles, and that certain aspects of formal education and research are still carried in the French language, and a great part of the economic and industrial sectors and press still use French extensively. French is the most widely studied foreign language in the country, and a majority of Algerians can understand it and speak it, though it is usually not spoken in daily life. Since independence, the government has pursued a policy of linguistic Arabization of education and bureaucracy, which has resulted in limiting the use of Berber and the Arabization of many Berber speakers. The strong position of French in Algeria was little affected by the Arabization policy. All scientific and business university courses are still taught in French. Recently, schools have begun to incorporate French into the curriculum as early as children are taught written classical Arabic. French is also used in media and business. After a political debate in Algeria in the late 1990s about whether to replace French with English in the educational system, the government decided to retain French. English is taught in the first year of middle schools. In spite of its widespread use of French, Algeria has not joined the Organisation Internationale de la Francophonie, an international organization of French-speaking countries. History of French in Algeria. Mohamed Ben Rabah, author of Language Maintenance and Spread, French in Algeria, said, The attitude of Algerians towards the French language is a complex one mainly because of recent history. In Algeria, Arabo-Islamists are supportive of monolingual Arabic and modernists, which mostly consist of francophone and secular members of the Algerian elite and the general population, favor bilingualism in Arabic and French. During the French colonization from 1830 to 1962, according to Ben Rabah, French symbolized foreign exploitation and was thus to be resisted, but that it served as a tool to raise the population's awareness and support in favor of such resistance, because French conveyed universal values of liberty, equality, and fraternity. During the colonial period, about 1 million French native speakers lived in Algeria. The Pied Noirs developed a distinctive dialect, termed facto. French was also the mother tongue for many of the Algerian Jews. In 1963, of the 1,300,000 literate people in Algeria, 1 million read French. Of the total population, 6 million spoke French. In the 1960s, post-independence Algerian politicians intended to carry out an Arabization campaign to replace the usage of French with modern Standard Arabic. The Algerian government taught French as the first mandatory foreign language for students beginning in the 4th grade in the primary cycle, from the end of the 1970s to the early 1990s. In September 1993 the Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education made French and English two separate choices for the first mandatory foreign language. Students were required to pick one over the other. The great majority of students selected French as their first mandatory foreign language. Opponents of French-Arabic bilingualism in Algeria argued that French was a colonialist and imperialist language. A report for the High Council of Francophonie in Paris stated in 1986 that in Algeria, 150,000 people spoke French as a first language and 6.5 million spoke French as a second language. The total population of Algeria at the time was 21 million. Ben Rabah said that, from a quantitative point of view, today's Algeria is the second largest French-speaking community in the world, and that Arabization, or the language policy implemented to displace French altogether, failed. In 1990, 6,650,000 people in Algeria spoke French, with 150,000 being native speakers and 6,500,000 being second language speakers. In 1993, of 27.3 million people in Algeria, 49% spoke French. At the time, studies predicted that 67% of the Algerian population would speak French by 2003. The Abassa Institute polled 1,400 Algerian households in April 2000 about their language use. Of them, 60% spoke and/or understood the French language. The institute used its findings to represent the 14 million Algerian citizens who were of the age 16 or older. Ben Rabah said that the polls confirm the trend of French increasing in Algeria. Maamri said that in 2009, due to the advent of satellite television channels that carry francophone entertainment, the language is now enjoying something of a revival. She added that also over the years, the Algerian government has pushed back, reintroducing French. English, because of his status as a language among the two global lingua francas, is taught from the middle school years onward. However, the Algerian government taught English as the secondary mandatory foreign language for students beginning in the 4th grade in the middle school cycle, from the end of the 1970s to the early 1990s. In September 1993 the Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education made French and English two separate choices for the first mandatory foreign language. Students were required to pick one over the other. The Minister of Education said that English was to be promoted because it was the language of scientific knowledge. Of 2 million schoolchildren in school between 1993 and 1997, between 0.33% and 1.28% chose English over French, a statistic Mohamed Ben Rabah, author of Language Maintenance and Spread, French in Algeria, referred to as insignificant. According to the Algerian envoy to India, only 5% of the population are able to speak good English. That led the government to invite Indians to teach the language in Algerian universities in 2012. Some 100 institutes affiliated to 13 Algerian universities needed nearly 250 English teachers in early 2012. Sub-Saharan African languages. The Koranj language of the Saharan oasis of Tababala is a heavily Berber-influenced variety of Sunni, a language more widely spoken far to the south in Niger. Sign languages. Algerian Sign Language is used in Algeria by the deaf. It has sometimes been used on national TV. Formerly spoken languages. Phoenician, particularly in its North African Punic form, was brought to Algeria by Carthage's influence. It was an influential language in the region. Augustine learned it, and quotes occasional phrases. However, by his time the language was losing ground to Latin, and no trace of it survives now. Latin itself was the language of the Roman occupation. It became widely spoken in the coastal towns, and Augustine attests that in his day it was gaining ground over Punic. However, it gave way to Arabic and Berber after the Umayyads' conquest, leaving only a few loan words in those two languages. Ottoman Turkish. Ottoman rule after the 16th century brought a dominant minority of Turks to Algeria, particularly concentrated in the large cities. For a while, Ottoman Turkish became a major governmental language. However, over time these Turks gradually assimilated, and, while many families of partial Turkish descent remain in Algeria, none speak the language. Other, Ladino was formerly spoken by some Algerian Jews, particularly around Iran, in the Tatayani dialect. However, most shifted to French during the colonial period. The Mediterranean lingua franca, a mixture of many Mediterranean languages, was once widespread as a means of communication with foreigners in the ports, including the slaves of the Barniers and the European renegades that joined the Barbary pirates. After 1830, it gradually disappeared, its functions taken over by French. Spanish has a long history in Iran, which was occupied by Spain between 1509 and 1790. It has left some traces in that city's dialect. It was also spoken by Pied Noirs immigrating from the Spanish Mediterranean. Spanish is also spoken by the Sahrawis living in refugee camps in the area of Tinf. Languages used in the Algerian government. Mohamed Benrabah, author of Language Maintenance and Spread, French in Algeria, said that as of 2007, Arabization is either complete or almost complete in the Ministry of Justice, the Ministry of Religious Affairs and registry offices in Algerian town halls. He also said that the Ministry of Education had been affected to a lesser extent. Official documents of ministries which had not been affected partially or fully to Arabization are often written in French, and Arabic translations of these documents are provided when needed. Benrabah said that as of 2007 the use of French in a number of higher domains has diminished since the colonial era when the language held an unassailable position in the media, education, government, and administration. In 1968 the Algerian government decreed that all civil positions use the Arabic language. In 1990 the government ruled that Arabic is the only language to be used in institutions and public service, and imprisonment was a penalty for violating this law. Around 1997 the Algerian government had passed laws prohibiting officials from speaking any language other than Arabic publicly. The government laws called for a fine for officials who prepare government documents not in Arabic. The government mandated that all textbooks and lectures must be Arabic, with French ones being phased out. The laws also stated that all television broadcasts must be in Arabic only. In 1997, Slimane Cheikh, the Minister of Education, said that French needed to be phased out because it was preventing Arabic from reaching prominence and because it was leading Algerians away from English, the primary international language of commerce, computers, and science. Of the documents submitted by the Algerian government to the sessions of the United Nations Group of Experts on Geographical Names and the United Nations Conference on the Standardization of Geographical Names, all were in French, and the government used French in its participation in almost all of the conferences associated with these groups. Languages used in Algerian education. As of 2007, Arabization has mainly affected primary and secondary education, while in university education French retained a higher social prestige and class and is the language used in scientific studies. As of 2002, French was taught as a foreign language from the fourth year of primary school until the final year of secondary school. French is used in the high school level in the exact sciences, the medical sciences, and technology studies. Some specialized fields offer courses in French and courses in Arabic. Almost all students prefer the French courses in those fields. Over 60% of university students in Algeria are educated in French. In graduate programs in social sciences, French is used. History of languages in Algerian education. The first president of Algeria, Ahmed Ben Bella, introduced Arabization in the education system in 1962. The Arabic language was introduced in all levels and all programs in the 1963 to 1964 period. As time passed, the time in the educational system spent on French gradually declined. In 1964 to 1965 primary grade 1 was fully Arabized with all other levels each receiving 10 hours of Arabic per period. The plans were complicated by the flight of 25,000 European teachers from Algeria and the illiteracy rate of 90%. The demographics also complicated the plans. Of 10 million Algerians, about 300,000 were fluent in modern standard Arabic while 1 million were able to read French and 6 million were able to speak French. To remedy this, the Algerian government hired 10,988 academic monitors. C.F. Gallagher, author of North African Problems and Prospects, Language and Identity, said that the monitors' intellectual horizons were at times only slightly less limited than their pupils. In 1963 the government recruited 1,000 Egyptians as Arabic teachers. Mohammed Ben Rabah, author of Language in Education Planning in Algeria, Historical Development and Current Issues, said most of these teachers turned out to be unqualified for teaching and totally ignorant of the Algerian social reality, and that their spoken Egyptian Arabic was incomprehensible to Algerians in general and Tamazight-speaking populations in particular, and their traditional pedagogy proved inadequate. In addition, the teachers were members of the Muslim Brotherhood and introduced Islamist thought in Algeria. In September 1967 Minister of Education Ahmed Talbi Brahimi completely Arabized primary level 2. So many parents delayed registration of their children in school until grade 3 when they could have a higher educational quality and where the French language was still dominant. The Algerian government had plans to totally Arabize the university sector effective December 1980. In all levels of education, bilingual education ended in 1985. In that period many Algerian elites practiced elite closure by sending their own children to schools controlled by the French government while promoting Arabization for the masses, so their own children would learn French and have access to jobs opening to those with French knowledge. Since most young Algerians had a poor command of French and were in Arabized school streams, they enrolled in Arabic language university departments such as Islamic law and Arabic literature and were exposed to Islamist point of views. Algiers had many unofficially bilingual primary and secondary schools, and Ben Rabah said that the elite closure practice was most visible in Algiers. The Algerian government, in 1988, officially prohibited Algerian nationals and children of mixed Algerian and French people from attending French Mission of Algeria schools. President Chadli Ben Jadid ruled that Algerian nationals were not permitted to attend all French schools. The Algiers French liquor copyrightee moved from one neighborhood to another. The liquor copyrightee Cheikh Bouamama, originally called the liquor copyrightee Descartes, took in students from the Tkichi backgrounds instead of Boe. When it was nationalized it served members of the educational, military, and political elites. After Chadli's decree, the school had a secret program which placed higher emphasis on French than other Algerian secondary schools did. Many students in the program attended universities abroad after graduation. In 1999 the Algerian authorities conducted a survey which stated that 75% of the population supported teaching scientific school subjects in the French language. In the middle of March 2001, the National Commission for the Reform of the Educational System proposed that French would be reintroduced in grade 2 of the primary cycle, serving 6 to 7-year-olds, instead of grade 4, serving 8 to 9-year-olds, and that scientific subjects in secondary school should be taught in French. Therefore, students would be biliterate in French and Arabic instead of having French as a subject. In 2002, the opponents to the bilingual educational proposal declared a fatwa against the pro-bilingual supporters. The reforms were intended to be implemented in September 2001, but the Ministry of the Interior suspended them on September 3, 2001. By 2008, the Algerian government began reintroducing French in the school system. References: Ben Rebai, Mohammed. Language Maintenance and Spread, French in Algeria. International Journal of Francophone Studies. Intellect Limited. Volume 10, Numbers 1 and 2. PA 193-215. English Language DOI, 10.13861, accessible on EBSCOhost. Ben Rebai, Mohammed. Language and Education Planning in Algeria, Historical Development and Current Issues. Language Policy, June 2007. Volume 6, Issue 2. PA 225-252. ISSN 1568-4555. Available at Springer Link. Berger, Annie Manuel. Algeria in Others Languages. Cornell University Press, 2002. ISBN 0801488001-X, 9780801488016. Notes. Further reading: Ben Rebai, Mohammed. The Language Planning Situation in Algeria. Language Planning. 2005. Volume 6, Issue 4. PA 379-502. ISSN 1466-4208. Misli, Delilah. La langue copyright Trangaree. Ra copyright Flexion sur le statut de la langue française en Alger copyright Rai. Le français dans le monde. November-December 1984, Issue 189, PA 22-26. Education Resources Information Center EJ 312037, Misli, Delilah. La langue nationale, pouvoir des mots, pouvoir parler mots. Pupils Ma copyright Ditarana copyright Eanes 33, 79-88. Misli, Delilah. La française dans la Ra copyright Alita copyright Alga copyright Ryan. Unpublished PhD thesis. Paris Descartes University, Paris. Misli, Delilah. Alger Plurilingue. Plurilinguismes 12, 47-80. Also at Centre des Copyright Études et de Recherches en Planification Linguistique, 1996. Misli, Delilah. Langue française en Alger copyright Rai, Arma copyright Management Linguistique et Mise en Œuvre des Politiques Linguistiques. Review d'Arma copyright Management Linguistique 107, 171-183. Mostari, Hind Amel. A Sociolinguistic Perspective on Arabization and Language Use in Algeria. Language Problems and Language Planning 28, 25-43. External links. Langsblogger copyright Rai. Université copyright Laval. Pan-Afriel 10N page on Algeria. The religion in Algeria is not 99% Islam. Islam is about 40% to 45%. 20% to 25% atheist, 10% to 15% Christians.